Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. We're going to take a slight break from the issues this morning and focus on the arts. The Milwaukee Repertory Theater is in its 62nd season, and the Rep is dedicated to providing the highest level of professional theater to Milwaukee and Wisconsin, in addition to offering a wide range of educational and community programs. Now through May 29th, the musical production Sirens of Song is happening at the Rep under the musical direction of Abdul Hamid Royal, who joins us today. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
I am so happy to have you here.
Thanks
For our viewers at home who have maybe not heard of this outstanding production or haven't had a chance to see it just yet, tell us more about Sirens of Song.
So Sirens of Song is a brand new musical, a world premiere being done here at the Rep, written by Kevin Ramsey and Pearl Ramsey. It outlines 100 years of the experiences of women in the 20th century through song.
Okay, and I've had the opportunity to see it, so you kind of put it in a nutshell, but I'll break it down a little more.
Come on, break it down.
It's three powerhouse women who not sing, but sang.
No, they do. They do.
Yeah.
Bertilla Baker, Amelia McCormick, and the indomitable Maisha McQueen. These three women sing everything from early hymns to your favorite tunes from the 20th century. So.
Yes, it's true, and we are so privileged to have Maisha here with us. She'll be on during the second half of the show, so we'll talk more about her and her journey. But what's really exciting about you being here is that you are a native of Milwaukee, and I really would like to know more about your journey that has led you to where you are today. So as I mentioned, you're the musical director and one of the vocal arrangers for Sirens of Song.
That's true.
When did you first know that you were interested in music?
Well, I think it started very, very early on, probably around 4. I'm conscious of it. There was always music in my house. My father was a jazzophile. My mother worked in the opera company at the Florentine,
wow.
In addition to being a business owner. And I also grew up in church. So there was always music. There was gospel music, there was jazz, there was classical music going on. And my parents tell the story that they saw me one day just sort of sitting at the piano, and they thought, well, if you're going to be at the piano, you might as well learn something about it.
Right, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say. A lot of credit goes to parents when you have individuals like yourself who have the opportunity to work with all the greats in the business. When parents see that a child has an interest or is really good or great at something, it's really up to them to kind of nourish and support that. And you actually were already taking lessons at 4 years old at the Wisconsin Conservatory of Music.
That's true. My
goodness.
My first piano teacher, my first piano teacher was Toba Kramer, and I remember going into the room and playing for her, and she saw something. And I think there's a lot to be said for what it is that we see in our children. Even if I never, went on, the fact that there were adults or other persons who were interested in what I did certainly provided an outlet for me to explore music. So.
Yes, you also performed with the Florentine Opera Company, which you mentioned your mom was a part of. You were only 8 years old?
Oh no, the Aida. Okay, so the show was the show was Aida, and I remember I was a supernumerary, one of the extras, the scene was, we were walking behind, I guess we're in Egypt or something, and we're walking behind these huge elephants. And of course, elephants don't know in their contract that they're supposed to sort of hold it all together. And so we had quite an interesting minefield of experiences doing that. But that was my first experience on the operatic stage, was with Aida at the
And
Florentine.
that is a great lesson for live theater because, whatever happens, and the show must go on.
It goes on, absolutely, absolutely.
So you had, by 8, already had written and publicly performed your first composition. So early on, you were just all over that music thing.
It was really clear, I think, to the people around me, not so much to myself, because, when you're that young, you just are doing what you do. But it was clear to the people around me that something was going on. And my mom and dad and the community, this is the important thing, the community surrounded me and supported, my fledgling interest in music and my talent, and encouraged, whether it was good or bad. And some of the early compositions were not so good. but they encourage the effort, and there's a lot to be said for that.
So you've studied with some of the best, including, and I hope I don't mess up his name, Andrea Williams.
Yes.
And you were the first African American to receive a Master's of Music in Choral Conducting from Northwestern University. That's pretty awesome.
Well, thank you very much. When I finished the conservatory, and at the conservatory, you know, we've moved around a bit, but there was Tony King, there was Berkeley Fudge, there was, even before that, I studied Hammond organ with Bill Green, who was a blind Hammond organ genius here in Milwaukee. And they all sort of poured into me. Marley Sabo was there, and Dave Hazeltine, who was a fantastic jazz pianist, was one of my teachers there. And after that, I went to Northwestern, just on a fluke. Someone told me that I couldn't do it. And that was the impetus for me to apply, and I did, got a full scholarship. And Dr. Robert A. Harris, may he rest in peace, took me under his wing and mentored me through that program.
And the rest, as they say,
and the rest
is musical history.
And the rest. Yeah.
You, needless to say, have had an amazing career. I want to mention that you have a Master of Theological Studies degree, and you're currently working on a PhD?
I am indeed.
Wow. Who are you?
I'm a geek.
That's wonderful.
I'm a geek. I mean, I'm a kid from Milwaukee that people said early on, you can do it. And if you can't do it, at least try it.
That's right.
And because of that, I kept trying things, and I found things that I was interested in. And in the things that I was interested in, I found things that I was good at. And those other things opened things that I was interested in. And those things opened things that I was good at. And so, yeah.
A real good example of life, how life really works.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. You had a 12-year stint on Broadway?
I was in New York for a long time, worked on a lot of shows there.
Let's talk about some of those shows. You work with, let me see, a long list of legendary singers as well. So I'm going to just name a couple, and if you can, in a nutshell, give me your experience. One of the best, Milwaukee native, Al Jarreau.
Absolutely amazing. It was like sitting at the feet of a professor. I learned every night on stage with him. He allowed me to arrange. We did a tour called the Colors of Christmas, and it was Mr. Jarreau and Roberta Flack and Jeffrey Osborne and Melissa Manchester.
Well, go on with your bad self.
How about it, right? I know. And so I had this idea for an arrangement for the 12 Days of Christmas, and I, along with the band, he allowed us to do it, and it was absolutely fantastic.
I'm sure of it. And a lot of people don't know, but Al Jarreau is the first vocalist in music history to receive a Grammy in 3 categories, that being jazz, pop, and R&B. So pretty awesome.
From here.
And from Milwaukee.
Come on now.
It doesn't get better than that.
Absolutely.
You worked with the late, great Natalie Cole.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Generous. Extremely generous. The first time I met her, I think I was working at a place in Los Angeles and met her through some friends, mutual friends, and then showed up at a session later, and it was for her with David Foster producing and the Paris sisters who sang with Anita Baker for years and years and years. And I had an opportunity, I was doing background vocals, which was crazy. And then her musical director, Gail Diedrich, and I became really, really good friends, and I worked with her from there.
I love it. Yeah. And you mentioned David Foster. That had to be pretty awesome in itself. A legend.
Everyone that you work with is a teacher, and the level of musicianship, ultimate professional, very, very clear, knew what he wanted.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So you did mention those 12 years spent on Broadway, and I'll name just a couple of the productions. I know there's a long list. So Sounds of Music, Sophisticated Ladies, The Wiz. What are some that stand out in your mind?
Five Guys Named Mo.
Okay.
That's sort of what took me to Broadway initially, after doing an ill-fated production of a Mahalia Jackson show called Truly Blessed with some really, really talented people. And then I worked with Cy Coleman very early on in the life, the life of the life, the musical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just some really great opportunities, and I really was excited to have you here today because it's such an inspiration, and I'm sure it motivates a lot of people to know that a young man who was born and raised right here in Milwaukee went on to do big things on both coasts, you know, New York and LA. So
yeah, Andrea, I've been really, really blessed. You know, I think one of the things that's so important for me to remember, and I do when I come home, is that one, there's always a place to come back to. There's a place that I'm from, and also to remember all of the lessons that I learned here. It's not about forgetting any of that. It's about honoring all of the people and experiences that have poured into me, and hopefully whenever I'm conducting or singing or whatever it is I'm doing, I want to make my ancestors proud. I want to make the people that have invested in me proud. I want to make Milwaukee proud.
Yes, well, I can speak for a lot of people, I'm sure. We are proud of you.
Thank you so much.
And when you were just talking, I was thinking Stephanie Mills all along, like, when I think of home.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You should sing, not me.
No, you did a really nice job.
Oh, shoot. But as we get ready to go into the second segment, I just want to know, what advice do you have for individuals? Because you have people every single day who say they want to sing, they want to act, they want to do all these things, and they really don't even know where to start. What advice do you have for someone who would love to be in show business in some form or fashion?
Sure. Don't be afraid of the days of small beginnings. I remember community theater, being the assistant to someone who was doing the thing that I thought that I wanted to do. The time of preparation is never wasted. And so to learn your craft so that when the doors open, you are prepared, because if the doors open and you're just getting ready, it's too late.
That's right.
So to prepare yourself so that when the doors do open, should they open, and we never know what, you know, a higher power has for us, but should those doors open, then you are prepared to walk in, and also to remember that you are more than what you do.
There it is. I love that. And I want you to stick around.
Okay.
We're going to talk more about the production, Sirens of Song, and we're going to be joined by the fabulous woman that is a part of this as well. So don't go anywhere. We're going to talk more about Sirens of Song, which is again playing at the Milwaukee Rep now through May 29th. We'll also meet one of the stars of the show, Miss Maisha McQueen, and we'll do that right after this.